Hey, what's up everybody? This is Ali Rafter back with a brand new video. Just wanted to shoot this quick video here. I'm standing around and I was kind of contemplating certain things and I wanted to really share it with you guys to ask to give you some feedback as to some of the important points of credit repair. The reason we're doing this obviously today is because I wanted to give you some clarity in reference to some strategies that people have been deploying and why they may not have been getting some outcomes. More specifically around the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is a topic that we haven't really discussed much. I did bring up a couple of points in the past where we discussed Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and hopefully you can actually go through them to somehow resolve the current disputes that you got going on. But is it always the case that you're going to get the best outcomes from that? Possibly not, right? Possibly not. And here's the reason I say why not. First and foremost, when you're going through the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, what happens now is because of COVID lately and the circumstances that individuals are in, these CFPB can actually allow these creditors and the credit bureaus to take an additional 30 days. Sometimes your disputes can be on hold, and then that hold can go all the way up to, let's say, 60 days, right? Where traditionally what you would have done is traditionally you would go to, let's say, the route of credit repair by sending dispute letters or some sort of template to essentially get the resolution or outcome. And you'd anticipate at least 30 to 45 days at max, right? The unfortunate thing is, though, it seems as though CFPB has no best interest or your best interest at heart, and they're allowing these agencies and these creditors an expanded timeline, which essentially is hurting your ability to get the outcomes quickly. The role of the CFPB really was to protect their consumers, right? Protect the customers from predatory lending, financial bad practices, misleading data reporting, bad debt collection, prohibited practices, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we know all these type of things with the CFPB, and we know that these are some of the things that the CFPB is supposed to govern and regulate and try to help you as a customer overcome some of those issues and challenges. The conflict that I'm finding, right, is that such an agency that was designed to protect you is actually going against you by the tactical and logistical things that they're doing. And that's actually hurting the ability for us to create the outcomes or resolutions that we're looking for. So if that be the case, I quite say, and this is very important, is that we got to start thinking avant-garde and solutions that we can implement that protects our best interest, right? We cannot take our ball to the playing field. Well, we'll have no chance of even scoring once, right? And on top of that, we're at a disadvantage. It's like playing in a soccer game and you have like 20 people against 10. Right? Plus, their goalie is probably 10 times bigger than yours. But their net is smaller while your goal's net is huge. So they can score anytime, like by fluke even, and they can score on you. So you have all these disadvantages that you're handicapped already with to start. And on top of that, you have this referee who just puts a blind eye and allows, even if they get a foul on you, he ignores it. But if you do a little thing wrong, then they get a chance to score 3 times on you, right? So there's just so much disadvantages. So you got to look at it that way. Now, the terminology that I'm using for you to understand here is to give you insights and some level of awareness so that you can take this information and go to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and use them on the point of where you have a pre-litigation package set up, right? So I actually spoke to somebody today and we had a pretty nice discussion on reference to the elements of what to do when you're disputing, right? So this individual actually in her 3rd round, and finally she decided to schedule a consultation with me via my calendar link. And we had a very brief discussion about what to do. What are some of the next steps, right? And the problem with that is she's already been trying for a long time. And the unfortunate thing is that she started since last year. So that 3rd round is essentially a few months apart, right? So each round was essentially a few months apart. Now that's not necessarily bad. But I would say, like, if you're starting your credit repair journey and you're trying to fight against the credit bureaus and you're pretty much in a situation where you have the ability to continue from a response that they give you, you shouldn't stop, right? Because stopping cripples your ability to continue disputing down the road. That can hurt you tremendously when you're trying to attempt to get your credit fixed, right? So don't stop your process. As soon as you get a response, you got to continue. You got to find the energy and the enthusiasm to continue, right? Even if the outcome or the answer that you're looking for wasn't provided, or you didn't get the results that you were expecting, you don't stop, you continue. So I explained to her some of the structures to follow. We went at a high level, and I broke down everything I possibly could to give her the direction that she needed to get the best possible outcomes, and some of the things that she can do to ensure that she gets high success from those campaigns. So I showed her some strategies, but I made it very clear, right, the CFPB's role, and she was contemplating whether she should go file a complaint against these credit bureaus and the creditors to the CFPB. And I made it very clear that although CFPB's roles and responsibilities and duties are to protect us and to give us some sort of guidance and some sort of hand or helping hand in getting the outcomes with your personal credit, you're not always going to get that, right? The reason why you're not going to get that is because A, the whole organizational infrastructure of the CFPB and the direction of which they've taken to the activities that are very evident and how they handle customer files pretty much demonstrates that there is literally no hope with the CFPB giving you any type of assistance, but rather giving the creditors and the credit bureaus the advantage of time in addition to just simply being a mediation messenger, right? So I have customers that come to me complaining that the CFPB is not helping them. And I asked, what was the response that you got from them? And they simply said, well, the creditor said this to us, so here's the answer. As a government organization, or let's say a private organization enacted by the government to protect the consumers, to get a response like that from them, in addition for them to allow the credit bureaus 60 days rather than their standardized FCRA 30 to 45, and to get a very generic response like that, it almost seems like CFPB is an extra waste of time, and it's actually more harmful to use them than they're actually doing good for you. So you got to weigh the pros and cons. Now, if you want to play outside that purview, you can actually attach the CFPB to lawsuits by notifying them that you are attempting to go through a lawsuit. That's why the pre-litigation structure is so important. You need to understand, as I say to you guys from day one, that your intent is to sue down the road. So whenever you build up a file, and the entire system of a file that you build on your credit campaign needs to be geared around that. Because if you're not gearing your credit repair activities around a potential suit for misreporting, categorizing data that is inaccurate, putting it on your report, jeopardizing your integrity and your character, then there is no purpose behind credit repair, right? So you have to think about that. Now, this is the time that you use the CFPB. When you have a legitimate case built up, you have affidavits sworn, testified under oath, a statement of accounts of exact activities you've done from day one to the day 300, for example. And I say that is because it can take you a long time to actually build up this case, right? And at that point, you're notifying the CFPB that we were sending you here, and you're supposed to be witness to have everything we've done. This is a notice to you that we may request you to come into the witness stand, and that we're certifying as an affidavit that you're responsible for this, and you're supposed to oversee this. Unless you deny it through an affidavit of denial that you're not responsible, please go ahead and come back with something, right? And what happens now is you sworn them in. So you put them in and you're going through a legitimate suit and you created a pre-litigation package. I promise you, you're going to start seeing a lot more responses, much faster responses. But to get to that point, and unfortunate as it sounds, you have to exhaust your resources, right? You'd have to go through several rounds. You'd have to go through, the ups and downs of the whole situation, and then finally get to that point where you actually have a fighting chance to get some outcomes. But in order to get there, see, that's where the headache starts, and that's where we all get in a situation where we're having complications with the CFPB, right? So in a jiffy, that's pretty much what you guys want to concentrate on, right? So again, understand the attack strategies you guys are going through and why it's so important, it's so critically important to tackle these strategies down packed and to understand the differences between generic disputing and simply having no substance whatsoever to a very strategic set of guidelines and some of the action items that you need to go through. We talked about the payment grid. I talk about it in the live stream that I did a couple of weeks ago, where I break down everything into payment grid structure. The more simple you are, the better it is, right? And understand the mistakes. If you itemize the mistakes and if you say, why is this happening? Then it's up to the judge, and based on a attorney who will work on contingency if you have the right file, to calculate those damages. It's not your duty to do that. And it's not your duty to spill out law cases, because at the end of the day, they still have the first mover's advantage and the home territory advantage. What works for you as a consumer is the basis of the language that you understand and the simplicity of the factual issues, which will build a huge case against them, because there's very challenging aspects of complicating a simple aspect. You cannot complicate something simple, especially if you're coming from a consumer and saying, why is the payment in my payment grid All three bureaus, why are they scattered all over the place? Why are not they the same? It's kind of hard to challenge factually what is happening on the report. But if you say, I'm disputing this item according to a section, this and that, and you have 30 days, it's not very factual because you haven't stated exactly what the issue with the item was, and you haven't really clarified the specifics of your dispute. So if you want results, you got to stick to specificity. And we talk about hundreds of times in this channel. So one of those things I really want you guys to get familiar with is study the patterns of the mistakes, list them out very, dumb it down if you have to on a simple page, and simply question the process. When you do it this way, they can't come back and say the item has been verified. That's not the question you're asking in that document. You're asking a question. There was no answer provided. You see what I'm saying? So if you go based on your home territory advantage and you controlling the dialogue, there's a lot more outcomes that you can create, my friends. I want you to really pay attention to that because that's the only advantage you really have. And over time, what happens is you've stipulated that they ignored your questions continuously, let alone continuous reporting of misleading data, which stacks the living hell out of the violations, and then get to a point where now you can start disclosing the fair credit reporting violations, statutory and punitive damages, and so on and so forth, including financial damages, legitimately so if you missed on financial opportunities due to their deficient reporting, creditors that is, and the credit bureaus allowing such negligence, then they're kind of violating the financial aspect as well. But what I'm trying to tell you here is use that to your advantage because this is what's going to create all the difference. Okay? So I just want to leave you guys off with that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something again. Hoping that I'm inspiring you guys to really think in a very simplistic way when you're looking at personal credit because that is what it is. And hoping that you guys get some inspiration onto moving forward with your continuous campaigns and wishing you guys nothing but the best and luck so that you can create the financial outcomes that you're looking for so that we can continue talking about some of the more aspects, the more advantageous aspect of having positive credit and so that we can move towards an aspect of building wealth altogether here. So with that said, this is definitely your guide and mentor. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe, turn the notifications on to all, smash that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video so we can continue this awesome kind of topics and grow our community so that we can answer more questions for you guys. And with that said, this is definitely your guide and mentor, Ali Tarafter. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now.